What is going on, everyone? Welcome to the Investing Bros live show. How about that pump in the crypto market that we are seeing today? If you had watched our morning video, you would have been prepared, but that's all right because there's a lot of room still left in it. There's a lot that we got to break down on the show today, on the charts, in the news, and reasons to stay what we're going to call cautiously optimistic about what the next couple of weeks hold. We're not out of the woods yet. There absolutely is still an opportunity for prices to go much lower, but we're seeing the potential signs that the bottom could be in and we could be going to the upside. The problem with that statement, though, I want to make sure I address it. We've been saying that exact same line now for a couple of months, and every time we start to get our hopes back up, the bears come back and do something once again to crush our spirits. That's why we're being patient. We're not going to get overly bullish too fast, too quick. I'm optimistic, but I'm cautious. You should be as well. I'll explain why in this entire live stream. If you enjoy the Bros community, you got to do a couple things for me. Right there on the screen, you saw that little mitten right there? Smash it. Smash that like button, hit subscribe so you don't miss any of our content. If you're on X right now, hit the like button. It's a heart right there. Just hit that little thing right there. Turn it pink, red. I think it's red. I don't even remember now. I lost my train of thought. Anyway, we got to roll our intro. T-Shroom, how you feeling? I know on Saturday you were kind of under the weather, but you were a trooper and went all the way through. You feeling any better this afternoon?
Well, I put a tweet on Twitter, on X, and asked everybody, hey, tweets. What is a good remedy and for getting better after being sick? And, you know, I have to say, Magic Internet Money really took the cake. He said, go ahead and have some local honey. And Tim, it just so happened I had purchased some honey and I had it in my cupboard. So I ate a lot of it. And I have to say, of all the things that I've been taking, that has made me feel the best.
Dude, honey's a superfood, is what it is. There's a reason why the Israelites were told to go to the land of milk and honey. Now, milk isn't what it used to be, but if you got raw, organic, real milk, the stuff that says it's not for human consumption, right, and honey, there's actually healing properties in that as well. Like they found healing properties, but you stick with the honey. It works. Yeah. And, you know, I'm glad to hear that you're doing a lot better. Shout out to some of the people in chat. Alfredo Gonzalez saying, hi, bros, from Texas. We were just out there. Alfredo loved being in the Dallas area. Extremely beautiful. Hey, there's a future in which maybe I would consider moving out there. We'll have to wait and see. Crux is in chat. Always good to see Crux here. Also, username throwing some shade at me. And I'm telling username right now, you better watch yourself, or I might just tell people to sell all of their chain link. You don't want that. Just kidding. It's all love. Good to see you guys in here. By the way, before we get going into it, we'd had a problem over the last week or so where people were commenting and saying they couldn't give super chats. We don't really know what happened, but we noticed when we went to permissions, it was turned off somehow. So super chats are back. Anyone who's been looking forward to giving those and asking some questions, you guys will have that back. B-Ball Golf, listen, don't join. Listen, Crypto Set Guy, Eric Wallen, username has joined this list. B-Ball Golf, you don't need to be one of the people that just goes after me relentlessly. He says NIU would beat Virginia Tech. You know what the truth is? Probably. And I'm okay with that. We don't play them this year. I'm just hoping we get together our football team and actually do something as good as our talent is, because it's not been showing. But this isn't a football show. This is a crypto show, T-Shroom. Right. Let's get in and take a look at the bubbles of what's happening here in the crypto space. A lot of green here today. You love to see it. Biggest ones I'm looking at, biggest gainers, Tau, 13.8% within the last 24 hours. FTM or Phantom is doing pretty well here at 12.2. Mantra at 11.2. Aave 11.6. Aave, again, one of those coins that we talked about last week we thought would have a special run. I don't think that run's over, but it is beginning, and you see some fruit of that. It's not as one of the biggest winners, like even FET over here, 10%, but Ondo having a nice day today. A lot of people have been disappointed by Ondo recently. It's up 8%. We'll have to take a look at Ondo, maybe some of these others as well. We'll check in on Aave because that is one of the ones that we absolutely love here. But it's good to see a sea of green. But you know what? Even though the altcoins are running, Bitcoin is the main mover today. Let me turn off Lux All here for a second. You can go back to my screen here, T-Shroom. Bitcoin is the main mover, and the Bitcoin dominance. This is the Bitcoin chart right here. I'm going to explain all of my Google colors right there. Don't you guys love how colorful this chart is? We got blue, red, purple, green, orange. Google would be proud. Google would be very proud. Bitcoin dominance back to climbing here today, back up above 57%. So yes, all of your altcoins are pumping back up, but Bitcoin's market cap dominance is continuing to rally to the upside. And yes, we had a small correction, but it looks like it's popping up once again. Let's go back to my Bitcoin Google chart here with all of my colors, just keeping things a little differentiated so that you guys understand what's happening. Bitcoin has been, if you guys are just joining us, maybe you don't watch the channel a lot, we have been in a falling, broadening wedge here for a while. You can see the red line. This falling red line has been resistance or a very good selling spot every time that we get back to it, such as back here in March, again here in April, twice here. We had May and June hit it there as well, and then July was the most recent touch of that red line. We didn't quite make it back up there here in August, but then we have two different levels of support. One is my line. I'm going to call it the Tim line. That's here in green, but the orange one we have highlighted because one of my favorite traders on X, Peter Brandt, has his drawn this way, and out of respect for him, despite the fact that I might disagree with him on some of his analysis, I want to make sure that's represented to anyone who's looking at it. Ultimately, both these lines signal significant levels of support. The main difference, though, is the wick that we had way back here on August 5th. The orange line, or the Peter Brandt line, he respects that as being a key indicator of a falling trend, matching with two other touches here on May 1st, also another one here on March 20th. However, I like the green line right here. I think that this wick was more of an outlier. It was a very quick momentum move, but ultimately we'd already started a 3-point trend line of support here, way back here on March 5th, that same touch on May 3rd, and here on July 5th as well. I was saying that I believe there was a good chance we could come down and touch this green line once again, but we fell a little short of it. As you can see, we found some support around 52,600, not falling all the way back down here towards 50K. And the question on everyone's mind right now, Tim, is this a sustained rebound? Is this move that we had where we bounced over the last couple of days and we're picking up some momentum, is this going to continue, or is it simply a fake out that we will fall back down, possibly towards the Tim Green line, or maybe even the Peter Brandt line coming down into the lower $40,000 levels? We're going to talk about that here. We did just get a super chat from Cali to Texas saying, any thoughts of Caspa and KRC20 relaunch on September 15th? What are your price predictions for the end of 2024 and also next year? T-Shroom, can you make a note of that? Can you copy and paste that? Can we save that for the first question in Q&A? Because I don't want to disrupt the Bitcoin TA too far, but that's a very good question that I want to make sure we address with its due diligence, right?
Definitely.
So let's save that one. Thank you for that super chat, Cali to Texas. Let's go back over to Bitcoin TA and take a look at what's happening. If you did not watch my morning video, you're missing out. Go watch it. It is very, very important. But you can see here there's several reasons why Bitcoin is bouncing right now. The first one, it's kind of faint. Some of you might not see that, but you're going to have to trust me on this. There's a faint blue line right here on my chart. And this is thanks to the Lux Algo indicator. If I were to go and take a look at our oscillators, there's also a faint blue line attached to the same oscillator movements. And what this communicates is what we call bullish divergence. Ultimately, we got a slightly higher low here on our oscillators. You have these lines with these dips. Well, this dip's a little bit lower than this one, a little lower than this one. But if you look at the price action candle bodies, it's actually a lower low in technicality. It's not a very severe bullish divergence, but it is one technically. That's the first thing I'm looking at. But as I mentioned in the video this morning, take a look at what we have with our other oscillators. The RSI finding some support down here and making a substantial bounce. Our MACD looks like it's about to cross bullish for the first time since back here on August 16th. It's making a nice climb up that direction. Those histograms, Those red histograms are getting smaller. But the most bullish part of it all is right here, the trifecta of the green triangle, the reversal triangle on our oscillator, the bullish momentum paired with that bullish divergence, and then the money flow creeping to the upside. This is my number one trading strategy. I have so many of them. We actually are probably in the next couple of days and weeks going to go through teaching a lot of strategies on trading in the VIP trading group. If you're not a part of it, check out the memberships down below. You don't want to miss it. But I'm going to give YouTube my number one strategy, and it is this Lux Algo indicator. Where do I take profit, though? I talked about it this morning, but anytime I get that trifecta of signals, I always take a look at the Bitcoin smart trail on that same time frame. In this case, it's the daily chart, something very, very bullish. But I'm looking right here at this smart trail, and it is coming to the downside. So this isn't a horizontal level of support, but there's some guesstimation that Bitcoin could definitely get above 61,000 and start to make a push towards 62,000 and hit this smart trail once again. They might be saying, Tim, how do we know that's going to happen? Is this something that plays out pretty often? Well, I covered it this morning, but if you were to take a look at the last 10 times, I drew them on the chart this morning. The last 10 times we got this buy signal for Bitcoin, one of these times, way back in May 17th, we did not touch the smart trail. So 90% chance that we at least run back to the smart trail, if not breaking above it. What that means is Bitcoin should, with a 90% probability, get back up to this smart trail on $61,000 to $62,000. The question then becomes, do we break out above and go a lot higher? That is something that is yet to be seen. But on the short term, I am in a Bitcoin long at the moment. Our VIP trading group entered it this morning. If you had been in that group, you could have gotten a nice entry. Now we're already above 56, pushing towards 57,000. So it's getting a little late to join that one and get a lot of gains, but it's still, there's still gains between here, 56,000 and 62,000. If you want to jump in, you can. Where do we get bullish? Where is the line that tells us if we're bullish or not? As you can see here, we have been setting these lower highs this entire time since the all-time high set back on March 14th. I need to see the most recent peak defeated, that level, $65,000. When we can break above 65,000 and close a daily candle above there, that is where I will move from being what we call cautiously optimistic, as I mentioned in the intro, into being extremely optimistic, or in other words, bullish. Bullish about new all-time highs coming, bullish about $100,000 happening before the end of the year. But first, I always wait for confirmation. I don't trade off my emotion or my hopes or my dreams. I can have those. It's completely fine to have your predictions and your thoughts. But the reality of investing is you wait for the confirmation before you make any major money moves. And in this case, I'm not telling you guys not to buy the dip, but if you're looking for any type of increased long position, or if you want to be able to answer the question, yes, I believe Bitcoin's going to the upside and it's almost a darn certainty, you got to kind of wait until 65,000 is reconquered. If it's not, that chance at 42,000, 35,000, who knows, 20,000 stays on the table as a possibility. Maybe not a very good one, probably not a very strong likelihood, but it's definitely possible. We get above 65,000 though, we see a lot of positive things happen, like, wow, little bubble right there. Interest rate cuts by 25%. 25 basis points, assuming not 25%, that would be ridiculous, seeing as that we're not even close to 25%. These all would be things that would send us above 65,000 and give us that confirmation, that high probability prediction that new all-time highs are coming and the bull market is back. We're going to talk a little bit more about that here in a little bit. I'm going to get a drink of water in a second, but first, before we transition here, we're going to get away from some technical analysis. We're going to get back into that later on in the show with Q&A, so stick around. We'll cover some of your favorite altcoins here in 20, 30 minutes or so. But I want to give a shout out again this month. Blofin, we got a special deal for you guys. You go to my screen here. You'll see when you click on the link in the description, Apple Mac Pro raffle. Well, it's a little misleading. What they're going to do is give you the cash equivalents of an Apple Mac Pro, which, in case anyone hasn't shopped around for prices recently is $8,000. How do you win $8,000? Well, you join the link right there, top of the description. You sign up for a Blofin link with the Investing Bros. Every time you trade $10,000 of volume or like $1,000 on 10x leverage, every time that happens, you get another entry to win $8,000. But we need more traders to sign up. We got to get to $60 million in trading volume before the end of September. We still have 20 days left, so plenty of time, but I need you to join right now. Click on that link and go start trading these moves with Blofin. First trade, sign up right now, go long on Bitcoin. You might have to ride some volatility, but go long on Bitcoin, ride it up at least to 60,000. That's probably a pretty good little bet right there. Make sure to have a responsible stop loss. Of course, you never enter a trade without a stop loss, but try to win $8,000 today. Go start trading with Blofin. T-Shroom, let's get into some of the news here on Bitcoin. While I get a drink, let's get into what's happening that also should cause people to be cautiously optimistic at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one of the biggest things that I've been seeing here in the news is actually this tweet here from Dan G. He said, crypto holders, take note. The Fed is about to cut rates. We're either in a confirmed recession or on the brink of one. What does this mean for crypto? Well, historically, in 1929, the S&P 500 has seen positive gains 87% of the time in the 12 months following rate cuts. And since 1957, the S&P 500 tends to bottom out around 3 months after recession begins. So this means, while short-term downside is in play, the worst is likely over for crypto markets, and we're just getting started. I felt that Dan G really simplified and this summarized the market outlook right now, and it was also very bullish. Tim, what are your thoughts here on this tweet from Dan G?
Yeah, I saw this one earlier. First of all, shout out to Dan. If you don't follow him on YouTube, Crypto Capital Venture, you're missing out. Some great stuff said here. I definitely want to look more into the details. Can you scroll back up to some of the details of the tweet he put out there? These are things that I think are very intriguing. Historically, in 1929, the S&P 500 has been seen as positive gains 87% of the time in the 12 months following rate cuts. That's interesting. I mean, I have not studied it all the way back to 1929. I know there were more recent times since the 80s where sometimes pivots in the Federal Reserve's plan, which of course the Federal Reserve wasn't around back in the 1929 days. But every time that they pivoted and started cutting rates, we've actually seen crashes in the stock market. So I wonder how that mathematics works right there. But what I've noticed here more recently is lower cuts, like 25 basis points, when you're not in a crazy bad recession, end up being very, very bullish. It's the heavy cuts that come in response to a very bad recession that cause problems. And I know he says something here in the tweet about the timeline of recessions. Can you go back to that one, T-Shroom, and the historical precedence of the timeline here? I know you read this, but I'm going to go back through it kind of slowly. Let's see what he says. And since 1957, the S&P 500 tends to bottom out around 3 months after recessions begin. And what I think he's getting at here is people are freaking out about a recession happening right now. I think Dan is making the argument that even though the GDP numbers didn't support it, but the reality is we've been in a small recession since March, April area, which is when Bitcoin and the crypto market corrected. He's actually making a call that we aren't about to enter into a recession, that we've been in a recession, and it's time to cut the rates to get out of one. It's been that historical 3-month period, and so he's predicting a local bottom. Now, again, shout out to Dan. Love him. I think he put together a great little tweet right here. I don't know. I have to look a little deeper into it to know all the numbers. I don't know him as a person to fudge those details. I don't see him ever posting videos or content, making up details out of thin air. But in good practice, just like how you treat us, you guys should continue to do your own research. If you ever hear me or T-Shroom claim something or say something, double check it. Even if we provide a source, double check it. It never hurts you to double check any information you hear on the internet, no matter who is saying it. In fact, I encourage you heavily, please do so, because at the end of the day, the only person who loses if you make bad investment decisions is you. You can get mad at some YouTuber that said something, but ultimately, the only person that lost is yourself. That's why we preach so heavily to continue to do your own research. We're going to help you. We're going to provide some tools. We're even going to give you our insights so you can chew on them to come up with your own decisions. But at the end of the day, if you blindly follow anyone without asking why, what, how, if you don't do any research for yourself, you're failing yourself. There's a problem there. That is not something that we encourage you to do. Continue to educate yourself and grow each and every day. I like this tweet, though, and it does make me it makes me feel more bullish if all this information is indeed correct, T-Shroom, and I have no reason to suspect at this point that it's not.
Yep, absolutely. And just a quick fact check there. The Federal Reserve was actually founded in 1913.
Well, it was. All right, so there you go.
Yeah,
that's why you fact check people.
But
it was founded in 1913? Why am I thinking it was way after that?
Well, the reason why you're thinking that is because they didn't the concept of quantitative easing was not even something that they utilized during the entire Great Depression. I don't think they moved the rates around almost at all during the Great Depression. They just had a Federal Reserve, and they did more balance sheet maneuvers and
it was
operations.
A plant. It was a plant from the beginning. It's a long plant, a long con, where they didn't do any damage for like 50 years.
Yeah, I mean, Keynesian economics wouldn't become popular and implemented at the central banks for a while longer. And then 2008 was really when things started to get out of hand quite a bit.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, a great tweet there from Dan. Kind of summarizing a lot of the thoughts that have been swirling around in my head. But that he's not the only hyper intelligent individual we're going to hear from today. We've got another one lined up. Let's take a look. Let's take a listen.
1% of the capital in the world right now. I think it's going to go to 7% of the capital.
7%.
My long-term forecast is it's going to go to 13 million over 21 years.
13 million.
13 million. But what is it 5 years from now? You're in your 4-year calculus.
You know, it's been growing 44% a year with about a 40 to 50 vol. I would think it'll move on at 40%, then click down to 35, then 30, then 25, and at some point it'll be the S&P return plus 8%, and it'll be the S&P vol plus 8% because it's always going to be a more global, open, free capital market.
How is there stuff?
So, what do you think about that price prediction, Tim? $13 million Bitcoin. Of course, that would be, I believe he said 21 years from now.
21 years, yeah. Which I guess would put us in, 2045.
Right.
There's a chance that he might actually even be low with that prediction. When I first saw this, and of course the title and everything is reflecting this is something that's very, very interesting. Michael Saylor, by the way, not interested with a price prediction over the next day or two. In fact, I don't even think he really cares that much about where the price is going to be a year from now, even though we all talk about that as a potential bull market top. Which, side note, I was having this conversation with T-Shroom earlier today. I might have some revised thoughts about when I think the top of the bull market is going to be. I'm not ready to give those just yet, so keep on watching. I want to continue to formulate my thoughts, compile some evidence, and provide something to say September, October 2025 might not be the top. When, though, I'll save that detail for a later video. I don't think Michael Saylor cares about that detail. I think he is looking at the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years as what he actually cares about. And T-Shroom, I think there's 13 million. I think it's a very realistic target for Bitcoin. Probably leaning on the side of overly bullish. I definitely see scenarios in which we don't get to 13 million. But the case in which we see that 13 million actually be a very low prediction, we could go much higher in the next 20 years, is obviously dealing with hyperinflation. Now, if you talk to a local conspiracy theorist or anybody who just is convinced that the sky is falling at every given moment, they're going to convince you that hyperinflation is something that's going to get really out of control within the next 12 months. And I'll tell you right now, if we do start printing money heavily, which there's reason to believe it could, inflation will definitely pick back up, whether the data says it or not, and Bitcoin will do very, very well. But if we do ever get to a place of hyperinflation where the dollar just loses values hand over fist, it's not even going to be a precedent of saying Bitcoin's becoming more valuable. It's simply just the falling of the dollar will make the price of Bitcoin default be extremely high. And that's adding on to the fact that Bitcoin becomes rarer every single day. It becomes harder to get a hold of every single day. Even if we could pause all inflation forever, if we could push the Bitcoin, or if we can push the price of the dollar right now to never increase and be the same value today as it is 20 years from now, I still see Bitcoin increasing in value into the millions. But when you include the fact that hyperinflation is still an extremely likely outcome over the next 20 years, I think you're actually going to start getting to a conversation where it's really hard to pinpoint just where Bitcoin could be, but 13 million might be extremely low. We might be looking at somewhere closer towards 50 million. And that's not because Bitcoin would be worth $50 million of today's money. It's because the US dollar in 50 years will be so depleted and so worthless. I mean, we're talking about gallons of milk being hundreds of dollars. If that kind of world exists here in 50 years, or let's just say 20 years, yes, Bitcoin will probably at least be 13 million, if not higher.
Yeah. Well, there's a second part to this clip, Tim. I do tend to agree that 13 million could actually be a low estimate for a 21-year time horizon. But let's listen to the rest of this clip because it gets pretty juicy.
You're worth billions. I mean, we can say that. It's above our pay grade, but who gets to decide if it's above your pay grade?
He might have been it's below his pay grade.
Right, exactly.
Bitcoin's an expression in this view that you want to invest in an asset without counterparty risk, which means you don't want to be counterparty to a country, a currency, a city, a company, a commodity, or a culture, right? So people think it's a risky thing. It's all about people wanting to not take risk. They don't want to guess whether Picasso's or real estate in New York or NVIDIA stock will be higher in 10 years. They want to buy money. They want to buy 1/21 millionth of all the money in the world forever.
End it there, Michael. Thank you.
Yeah. So a nice little fresh evangelical soundbite there for all the orange pillars. Of course, Michael Saylor being the chief among us. Michael Saylor got the orange tie there on CNBC, and the price is doing a nice little dance to the upside. Do you think it has something to do with Saylor being on CNBC this morning at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard?
No, it has nothing to do with Michael Saylor. Michael Saylor, some people almost like to say that Michael Saylor is a top buyer. That's not true. The man buys no matter what is happening. He buys if things are bullish. He buys if things are bearish. He buys if price is high. He buys if price is low. He has literally no indicator. He's no indicator of what Bitcoin is about to do. Bitcoin is rallying right now because we got overextended to the downside. We got to a position where the strength of the bearish moves were getting weaker. Remember earlier on the technicals, we talked about what's called a bullish divergence. Bullish divergence shows how traders, despite moving price further to the downside, get weaker in that push and is an overall sign to experienced traders, experienced buyers that, hey, yeah, we went a little bit lower, but we went with a lot less strength. That means that price is about to reverse and head back up to the upside. So that right now is why. It's really simple. I mean, the most simple answer that people are going to say, yeah, no, duh. More people are buying right now than selling, T-Shroom. But I think if you were going to try to pinpoint the exact reason, if we were going to try to blame it on a news story in general, it more than likely has to do what is happening over the next 48 hours. Maybe a little bit more than 48 hours. First of all, tomorrow night will be the presidential debate between candidates Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. This will be the first time we have seen a debate between the two of them. Honestly, one of the first times we've heard Kamala Harris respond live to a reporter, and she can only script so much. So there's people right now in anticipation wondering what's going to happen on that stage tomorrow night. It's the 10th. Do you know what time that debate is, T-Shroom? We're not going to live stream it. We're going to watch it and kind of talk a little bit about it afterwards. But as a whole, I'm going to tell you guys right here, at least on this channel, the only thing that I care about, the only thing that the channel is going to care about is going to be how does the debate and what we hear affect the crypto prices, these traditional finance prices. We just want to help you guys make money because we've said it here before on the channel. I'll say it again. While you might have a personal opinion about who you want to win, everyone should, and you should use that opinion and go vote to what you believe is right. I believe that the prices will go up in the long term, no matter who the next president is. It's one of the advantages of the United States presidential system that even though it's the most powerful position in the world, they only have so much power. And at the end of the day, there's a lot of people with a lot of money out there that want to continue to make money, and they're going to cause both candidates to make policies that are favorable for them And in this case, if they've invested in Bitcoin, which a lot of wealthy people are doing right now, it's going to be very positive for Bitcoin and the crypto markets. So you shouldn't necessarily fret too much. That being said, I'm still very interested to hear the details. That's the first thing we're looking at. And then Wednesday morning, right? So that'll be Tuesday night. The next morning, inflation numbers will come out. And while the inflation numbers aren't necessarily as important as, say, the PPI numbers that we had here a couple of weeks ago, they still will play a major impact on what Jerome Powell and the Fed think that they need to do here in just a week and some change next Wednesday, the 18th, when we get the Fed rate cut decision. It's almost a certainty that we will cut at least 25 basis points. That's very bullish. The question, though, is if we need to get a little more aggressive. The question is a looming recession coming? What do the data points say? What do the details say? How does Jerome Powell respond? All of these things, I believe, T-Shroom, are the reason why the markets, after a nice dip, are about to, or they're expecting positive information to come out, and therefore it's time for the prices to rally early. I meant to say this morning, this is my last point here, T-Shroom, and then we'll go back over to you and we'll go to more stories. I didn't say it in my morning video, so I want to add in there. A good reason why I believe that we dipped before the rate cuts coming next week, and the rate cuts will be very, very bullish, has to do with our overall worldview of how markets work, and that you right now are trading against what we call the composite man, an entity that is combined of all of the evil entities. That'd be the large investors, the institutions, the whales, who, let's be very honest, they make money when you lose money. The whole world of investing, ladies and gentlemen, is taking money from someone to give to someone else. The difference is that these entities, this composite man, a lot of them control the media. They control the highest level of volume that controls the markets, and they're constantly in a place where they're trying to trick you into making the wrong decision so that they can steal your money in the long term. You got to learn how to read their tactics and play the game with them. But my point is, let's just pretend that I'm the composite man. Let's pretend that I own the news media, that I want to steal the money from the poor. How do I do that? Well, I got some bullish news coming up, more than likely. We're going to cut rates. But let me scare people a couple of weeks prior to that detail coming out. Let me dip prices to new levels we haven't seen in months. Well, we saw that happen recently. Check. That's what I would do. Why? So that you would sell and I could buy discounted Bitcoin. But then, if everyone thinks that we get a bullish news print if we get a recession, or if we get a rate cut, then everyone's waiting to buy till the rate cut. Well, I don't want you to buy the dip. I want to buy the dip. So what I do is I start to buy in low, and I start to put in bullish articles to pump the price early before we get to the actual event. Then once the bullish event happens, I give a small sell-off, confusing you, convincing you were wrong, selling your Bitcoin once again, and then I buy it and I take it off up to the right. I don't wait until the actual bullish event to buy. I convince you to sell long before, and then I buy shortly before the actual bullish event. Right now, if I was composite man, the way the charts are moving are playing out to a T of how I would want to move them to steal your money. I dipped the price. I freaked you out. A lot of you are calling for $42,000, maybe even lower. That does not make you buy. That leaves all of the buying pressure to me. Some of you are still capitulating. You're selling to me. And then I send the price to the upside. And then as we go higher and you want to buy back in, maybe that's when I end up taking my profit, confuse you, dip the price back down, buy it once again. This is the age-old tactic of the composite man. You got to know how to read it. You got to know how to trade it. Some of you, though, need to know how to just understand it's happening and do absolutely nothing. Hold your bag, ride the volatility. The price is going up and to the right in the long term. Don't let the fluff and the noise and the chaos distract you from making your money and changing your life forever with generational wealth.
Yep. That's really well said, Tim. And just my 2 cents on that rant is, also, don't be surprised if we're just completely sideways through September, right? If we continue to just trade sideways, and not see much deviation from 60,000. All right, let's continue on here because we have some more analysts that have been making some moves here. The latest, Arthur Hayes, this was as of September 7th, said he closed his Bitcoin short, made 3% profit, enough to cover his food and a bar tab at KBW. I can't remember what that is. But with Bad Girl Yellen watching markets and releasing a weekend statement, if stuff continues to puke next week, Bitcoin might rise, anticipating more liquidity. Yes. So on this note, Tim, I have some liquidity metrics that I've pulled up But what is your initial reaction to this? I know that last week Arthur Hayes was actually quite bearish, and he's pivoted quite quickly here. What are your thoughts?
We kind of predicted this would happen. We didn't say it exactly, but we talked about how Arthur Hayes will kind of flip-flop and say things to get his name into articles. It doesn't get your name in an article when the price is sitting at 58,000 to say it's going to 56,000. It doesn't get you your name in the news if we're at 54,000 and you say we're going to go to 60,000. You got to say things like 40,000. Right? Levels we have not seen in a long time, multiple months. You got to get your name in the news by saying 75,000, a brand new all-time high. I'm not saying Arthur Hayes is an idiot. I think he knows exactly what he's doing by putting these higher and lower brands. It's actually, it's a part of that composite man theory. I'm not saying he's one of them, but it's one of those things that I say one thing and I do something else. I print an article knowing that my name is going to be printed saying that it's very bearish. I know some people heavily respect me. Well, I get that article. I get other people to capitulate. Meanwhile, instead of waiting for 42,000 or whatever he predicted, I'm buying at 52.5. Well, that ended up being a nice little dip. And all of a sudden, now that I got my buy order and things are moving back up to the upside, I can come out and change my mind and say, "Ups, never mind. I was wrong." Doesn't matter to him that he was wrong. He made money. Now he talks about it going to the upside. Why? Because he wants the price to pump so he makes money. You can say that you don't like that move. You're going to be in a world of a lot of hurt and a lot of, your feelings get hurt a lot if you get hurt every single time you find out somebody lied to you about a price prediction. That's just honestly how the games are played with people of his position. He can come out and say outrageous prices and then change his opinion a day later, and his money's doing just fine.
And you might say, well, D-Shroom, Tim, why did the investing bros cover it if he's a manipulator? Look, you want to know what the manipulators are doing and thinking, right? If you have a serious account that you're trading with, you want to know what everybody's saying at all times. What you don't want to do is let that affect your emotions, which then affects your trades. You want the raw data to come in. Is Arthur Hayes bullish or bearish? Okay, that 1 or 0. And is he a manipulator? Is he a known manipulator? And does he often go the opposite way of the market to try to get people to buy in? Yes or no, right? That's all that you should be concerned about. In general, right? There's more to it than that, but that's a good, healthy way of kind of saying, well, why do we talk about it here in the Investing Bros? And you can kind of look through that lens of everything. Also, Willy Woo here, getting further into the liquidity. This is a chart here. It's a correlation of, this is going back to 2019. Let me try to get this in a situation where it'll be easier to read. All right. My apologies here. Okay, now you can see here that this is a correlation between Bitcoin and the USD M2 expansion. M2, just think cash. Just think all the money that's out there in the United States or in the world. That's the dollar. Okay, so as you can see down here, this is the M2 money supply over time going back to 2019, where it was flat, and then they had to print a lot of money to be able to combat the negative economic effects on the pandemic. Okay, and then they brought that down considerably, down to a negative rate. Okay, at the same time, you can see that the price of Bitcoin rose in a pretty predictable way versus the M2 money supply, right? And so now we're going into a phase where that M2 money supply is going back positive. Now this comes from a tweet back from June 3rd. So this is a very dated tweet, but I just wanted to show you all the correlation. Today, an updated version of this, it shows that right now, so when that was taken back in June 1st, the money supply was 0.7. Now the money supply, they've just kept on going, right? So kept on printing, and that is now at 1.26%, right? As long as that is going higher, Bitcoin and gold are going to go higher, right? Because they are denominated in dollars and they are scarce resources. You can say the same thing for most commodities: oil, corn, cattle head, all included. S&P 500 also included. So overall, though, I like to pay attention to the M2 money supply because it gives me an idea of how much liquidity is out there to chase assets and to chase goods and services. As a consumer, I don't want M2 money supply to go up because it's going to make my bananas and my gas and my Grubhub more expensive, right? It's going to make inflation more expensive for my consumer side. But for my investment side, it's beneficial because there's there's the ascension of value of assets, whether that be Bitcoin or shares of NVIDIA. One more story here. Whales accumulate Bitcoin amid market decline. 2,814 Bitcoin purchased for 157 million. This is like one of the best. This is one of the best versions of Cite Your Sources. Literally, you can copy and paste these addresses and see exactly what's being talked about here. On-chain data reveals the major whale addresses involved in these transactions are, I'm not going to read the addresses, the accumulation of large quantities of Bitcoin often signals confidence from prominent investors, potentially leading to more stable priced environments as they absorb sell pressure. Folks, the bottom is likely in here for Bitcoin. Now, could it go lower? Yes. All of this data is showing me that we are at a local bottom. Could it go lower? Yes. There could be an event, right? A certain administration, Kamala's campaign, could surge ahead in the polls, and that could potentially be bearish for Bitcoin. There could be a lot of other things that could happen that could be bearish for Bitcoin to get us back to those $45,000, even $42,000 per coin levels. However, the data we're seeing come across the screen right now is showing, hey, look, everybody's fudding, everybody's fearful. Fear and greed is at a record level of fear. That's when you should be buying, right? Says history. Now you have to take that with a grain of salt and see if it's the right thing for you. But in the news, on the charts, local bottoms looks like they're coming in. And as somebody who maybe you bought at $73,000 Bitcoin, that may not provide very much comfort. And I apologize for that. You're in trading, right? You're in commodity trading. Bitcoin is a commodity. It's a currency. This is a somewhat cutthroat world. You bought high. Don't be someone who sells low, right? You want to buy high and sell higher. And when it comes to Bitcoin, I have a very high conviction that in the near future, in the next 6 months, Bitcoin will be much higher than $73,000 per coin. And maybe you can even break even if you want. But I'm going to be hodling. And at this point in time, I'm buying, Tim. I'm buying Bitcoin. I'm definitely not selling. And I'm certainly not going short for a multi-month period of time.
Yeah, I think it's all very, very solid. And again, it's one of those things that this is also a reason why you have a trading portfolio and an investing portfolio.
Absolutely.
Investing portfolios, unless Bitcoin went to zero, if you're spot buying Bitcoin, and it has to go to zero for you to completely be removed. If you invested $100,000 in Bitcoin at $70,000, even if we dropped to $3,000, your investment is not killed and over. When you're trading, you need to have some pretty tight stop losses because especially if you're leverage trading, you can get liquidated a lot quicker based off of what is happening here. So make sure that you are not taking your entire portfolio with 3x, 10x, 50x leverage that Bitcoin's going to go up, up, up and to the right. But that being said, while we are still relatively low, even compared to the last couple of months price action, buying the dip, not a bad scenario for the long-term future.
Yep.
T-Shroom, any other stories we have
Yes.
today, or is it time to transfer into Q&A? Oh, we got a lot more. Okay, we have a couple of interesting Q&A points. I want to kind of preface this, but we're going to keep going with stories. A lot of people in chat are talking about the Van Eck news that I guess we missed in our Saturday show because what I'm looking at, a lot of these articles are 3 days old, but Van Eck will shut Ethereum futures ETF as spot funds struggle. We're going to cover that here in just a little bit, give our takes on it, but T-Shroom, let's continue on with the rest of the stories, and then we'll go that direction, and our super chat from earlier about Caspa.
Absolutely. Well, Tim, these stories are not stories that are going to move the market, right? This is why we chose to create a completely new show called Deep Takes, where we go deep into these stories. These are the headlines we're going to be talking about tomorrow in Deep Takes. Bitcoin scaling solution Fractal launches mainnet A16Z, a very big venture capitalist firm. Crypto reveals 21 startups in the accelerator. A lot to bite into there. We're going to be talking about it. Tether's $100 million investment in Latin American agriculture firm may be a tokenization play. Some juicy, interesting headlines there, Tim. Of course, we'd love to break it down here on the show, but data has shown that you guys don't really care about it. So we've moved it to the Discord. Where
only the diehards care. Only the
exactly
diehards care.
The diehard people like me, ultra geeks, who really want to know about the future of currency and stuff like that. Not just trying to make money in these markets. In any case, join us in Deep Takes tomorrow at 10:30 Eastern Standard Time in the Discord. We have a lot of fun in there. We go all kinds of crazy, and you can ask whatever questions you want. If you want to talk trading, we'll talk trading in there as well. But We're definitely going to cover those two headlines. That's going to wrap it up for me, Tim. Let's look at that Van Eck headline. I remember seeing it on Saturday. We skipped that.
You muted yourself when you went to my screen.
My bad. We skipped that headline because it's a little bit not misleading, but it's a little bit of a nothing burger, right? And you don't want to read too much into this, in my opinion, right? Now, there could be something sinister, like Van Eck could say there's no future for Ethereum. I think the reality here is just right now, it doesn't make a ton of sense to put a bunch of marketing dollars into a new ETF when you could wait and launch that, Q2 2025 when there's a lot more retail in the space. Yeah. That's my whole take.
A couple of details I want to make sure. Some people T-shirt might be coming to this cold. They might have heard of an Ethereum ETF, but they might be saying like, wait, it's closing. Isn't that terrible? Wouldn't that be really bad? Let's make sure we explain some of the details here. First of all, it is true. Van Eck is shutting the doors on their Ethereum ETF only a couple of months after launching it. The dates will be September 16th, and anyone who purchased an ETF will be given cash back into their accounts, not cryptocurrency. So here's the thing, though, is they never bought Ethereum. They bought
an ETF.
They bought an ETF, and then Van Eck had to go out and buy the Ethereum. So will there be some selling of Ethereum when this happens? Absolutely. When T-Shroom says a nothing burger, we're going to get back into that, but I want you guys to know there might be / should be a small little sell-off, as I would expect Van Eck, after needing to get that cash to give to everybody, will start to sell off their Ethereum holdings that they were holding in storage for the Ethereum ETF. Now, things to keep in mind is why. Is Van Eck doing it because Ethereum itself is not doing well? Well, no, that's not the direct reason. It could be a roundabout cause, but it's not what they state. They ultimately are stating their reason for it is low demand. Well, why is that a positive thing? Guys, if there's been no demand, if no one has been buying their shares, there's not that much that will be sold off. Again, it's not that old of an ETF. The price is significantly down since then. All things that I have seen up to this point, T-Stream, suggest that one of the reasons why there's not a high demand on Van Eck is because anyone who's buying Ethereum ETF, which I don't think is that many people, they're buying it over on BlackRock. BlackRock is actually the only ETF in the Ethereum world and Bitcoin world that's really been overall just positive no matter what's happening. Want to know why that is, though, everybody? It's because BlackRock, even if you don't want to buy their ETF, they're buying their own ETFs. They are buying both their Bitcoin and their Ethereum ETFs, keeping all those numbers positive. And I believe every institutional investor or retail investor that does want to purchase and get access to ETFs, they're just going after the best rate, the company that they trust, the one that has shown to be the strongest in both fields. Why go to the second best when the fees are just as good, if not better, on the very best, right? That doesn't even make sense. So ultimately, we're kind of seeing a world where there's just not enough room in the boat for multiple ETF opportunities. It's all going towards BlackRock. Yeah. With that said, people are asking, because I saw this in chat, should I be selling my Ethereum? Is this a problem? Is this a long-term bearish scenario for Ethereum's success? The short answer is no. Why? Well, they launched during a pullback. They launched during a bear trend in the entire crypto market in the first place. But secondly, as I just mentioned earlier, first of all, Van Eck doesn't really have that much Ethereum. Why? Because there was low demand, meaning no one was purchasing it. Number two, BlackRock is buying. And this goes back to what I was talking about earlier with the composite man. BlackRock should be one of the top people thought of. Like when you think composite man, there's a couple people and a couple companies that you could put in that list, but there's not a single thing that comes to my mind quicker when I say the word composite man than Larry Fink and BlackRock. If they are buying every single time you guys are freaking out, stick with me here, guys. I'm not wanting to be disrespectful or rude, but do you think I care more about what you're doing with your Ethereum, or do I care more about what BlackRock is doing? Do I think that you guys selling Ethereum has a bigger impact to the downside than BlackRock buying? Absolutely not. You want to know why? The reason I know why is because BlackRock knows the markets. Heck, they're the ones that manipulate the markets. If they're buying, that's bullish. That's bullish long term. So in a nutshell, anyone who's reading this article thinking that this is a major problem, when T-Shroom said this is a nothing burger, what he means is when the dust settles, and there might be volatility, there might be a small sell-off, but when the dust settles, this will not have a long-term impact on Ethereum as a whole fundamentally. This will not have a long-term impact on Ethereum's price in the negative way. If Ethereum's price goes down, it will have nothing to do with this. It'll have to do with other problems. But also in a nutshell, any dip that happens, there's already a buyer waiting. There's already somebody just like a dog. I know this well because I have a 16-month-old. Like a dog on the kitchen floor beneath your toddler's tray. He's just waiting for those crumbs to fall down so he can eat them real quick. I don't have a dirty floor in my kitchen. Beamer does a fantastic job. He's my dog of cleaning up after Brody and any mess that makes it there. In the same way, anytime cryptocurrency prices, especially Bitcoin and Ethereum, are dropping, BlackRock is going to be right there to scoop it up. And the goal would be you guys understand that, and you're scooping it up along with BlackRock. Don't miss out on the pump. If they're buying, I'm buying. That's my rule.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yep. It's also Bitcoin season. It's not ETH season. Mm-hmm. My prediction is that VanEck will relaunch that ETF, and it will do very well. There were a couple issuers for the Bitcoin ETF that pulled out at the last minute, I remember, just because there is a limited market at the end of the day. I just think that this is not the time to launch an Ethereum ETF. It's the time to go all in on Bitcoin because it's Bitcoin season, and then Ethereum season comes after. So as a transition to altcoin season. With that said, that is going to go ahead and conclude. You're probably seeing a lot more headlines about politics and Bitcoin and politics and the U.S. economy. We're going to go ahead and skip those today. But you're probably seeing a lot of those, right? We just want to stay focused on Bitcoin and price action in assets, such on equities and the crypto side. We're very aware of some of the other headlines, and we can talk about those tonight in the X Spaces. You can join us tonight in the X Spaces at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we'll have some fun talking a little bit more about the political side of things. But, Tim, are you ready for the factoid of the day?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Factoid of the day brought to you all by who we trust, which is Decrypted.
A whole week off. A whole week off of the factoid, by the way, T-Shirt.
That's right.
It's crazy. I was getting itchy. I was getting a little, needing my factoid.
Jonesing for a factoid.
Jonesing for a factoid. So I interrupted you. You were saying,
that's okay.
Who's bringing us this factoid today?
Decrypted.tax is the tax pros
sweet.
that Tim and I trust with our personal and business taxes and everything to do with crypto. Go and check them out in the link below. You get 25% off when you click through us, the Investing Bros, and tell Ernest that Tim and T-Shroom sent you. Tim, this city had the 10th highest population in 2023. Was it A, Dallas, Texas, B, Phoenix, Arizona, C, Chicago, Illinois, or was it D, Jacksonville, Florida? What is your answer, Tim?
Okay, so you have to remember these factoids of the day. I want to see what chat says on this one, but the elf wants to mess with me, right? So this is kind of like taking an SAT question where you have to understand what the questionnaire is trying to get to. Normally the elf chooses something that's been significant recently, and that's the answer, right? So we just got back from Dallas. There's a lot of reasons to suspect that A is the correct answer and that it's Dallas. But the problem is I think it's just way too obvious because I have no idea, but it's too obvious for it to be Dallas, which makes me think that it's going to be – I don't know if there's a trick here. Now I think I'm down to 3 of them. I see BJ saying D, Jacob saying it's D. Some Caspian says it's so easy, it's A. I just don't think so. Stupid thing says all 4 cities are uninhabitable. Well, there's numbers that say differently because there's a lot of people inhabiting them. A lot of people saying D. I'm going to probably go here with the audience members that I'm overwhelmingly seeing D, Jacksonville, Florida. I know there's a lot of people in Jacksonville. Is it the 10th highest? It's a good question. We'll have to wait and see. I'm going to go D, Jacksonville. That is my chart. There we go.
All right, Tim.
It is. I was right.
Number 10. Yeah, and as of 2023, number 10 was Jacksonville. Number 9 was Dallas, Texas. Tim has outsmarted the factoid elf today.
Yeah.
And nobody's surprised. New York, L.A., Chicago, the top 3 for these United States of America. Let us know. Do you live in one of these cities? Do you hate living in the big city, or do you absolutely love it? Can you not get enough of it? Tim, we had a question here. Yeah. Any thoughts on Caspa and KRC20 relaunch in September 15th? What are your price predictions for the end of 2024 and also next year? Well, Tim, while you work on the price predictions, I would just say I've heard a lot less hype about this relaunch of KRC20. So what I would expect, a little bit of background, they did a launch of KRC20 that was supposed to be able to enable meme coins on Caspa. I wouldn't say that it was a complete failure. But it was pretty bad. It was also not the fault of the Caspa team, right? This is a project developing on Caspa, and it was pretty bad. So a relaunch on September 15th. This is going to be after the debates. It's going to be just before the rate cut on the 18th. I would say that this is going to be a time where a lot of people are going to be excited. We could even see crypto assets surging higher in anticipation of the rate cut. So this is a pretty good time from a news cycle standpoint to go ahead and release something like this. Hey, if they can get it right and they can launch it and I can start trading meme coins on Caspa, that could be very, very big and very, very bullish for Caspa, the token. So that's what I think. Tim, you got a price prediction?
It's really hard to pinpoint a 2024 price prediction because there's so much that can happen between now and then. So this is going to be less technicals than it is speculation based off of fundamental things. Let's start off by saying we got a nice buy signal here on the daily chart here for Caspa. Price prediction for the short term, even though this wasn't the question, would be at least back. Hit the wrong thing there. At least back up to this daily smart trail. We're talking about getting back up to 17, pushing closer towards 18 cents, right? So that's my short-term price prediction, but that's not even a new high for this whole cycle. You can go off my screen here, T-Shroom. I don't know what I clicked, but it definitely messed with something. I'm going to have to come back in here later and edit my charts because that is not good I just did right there.
Hit Command Z.
Command Z. Oh, that's right. Let's
do it again.
Oh, there you go. Fixed it. All right. Anyway, back to price predictions. Where could we be? All right. As I said, 2024, there's nothing at the end of 2024 that has like a factor where you can speculate heavily. Oh, usually price does this, so therefore we're going to be here. What I'm going to deal with here for factoring my thoughts about where price of Caspa could be is starting off with, well, let's go with Bitcoin. Let's talk about the big one of them all. It's still Bitcoin season. I don't think alt season really starts until later in December or maybe even January. But that being said, I think that Bitcoin still is on a route to 100,000 by the end of the year. I'm going to be very honest with you. No matter who wins the presidency in November, I still think there's a chance, no matter who wins, that Bitcoin hits 100K. And there's scenarios I'm going to lay out in another video. Again, it's a very complicated thought, what I'm going to say about the future of where the top of Bitcoin's cycle will be. With that said, there's a chance that Bitcoin is somewhere between 100 to 175 before the end of the year. I lean closer towards the 100, but there is a scenario in which it goes that high. And if Bitcoin goes that high, we're going to see an absolute crazy run-up of altcoins. I think that Caspa currently sitting around, where are we at currently? 16-ish cents at the moment. I believe that this is one that easily will break to new highs. I'm not going to say $1 just yet, even though I think the long-term perspective of Caspa in the bull market goes above $1. I'm going to say we're going to be somewhere in the realm of between 50 cents to $1, probably closer to 50 cents. I know it's not pinpointing it, but I do think Caspa has a little surge. I think it slowly creeps up with Bitcoin while Bitcoin is increasing. And then somewhere in December, we get a crazy altcoin run, and Caspa makes a massive run up into above 50 cent levels, massive returns, right? But then the question is, what does it do early in 2021? For all I know, Caspa waits until 2021 to make that explosive move. For all I know, it makes that move earlier than expected, maybe in November, and we're possibly talking about over $1. That being said, I think Caspa is a great project. I do think it solves for some of the things that it's still a proof of work coin, similar to Bitcoin. It solves for some of the fundamental flaws of Bitcoin. Bitcoin doesn't have a lot of flaws, but there are some. It has flaws when it comes to actually using it as currency. I believe Caspa can solve a lot of those problems, can be transacted at a very high level. I think it's one that it's not even showing us its true colors in terms of how high it could go, because it's not even listed on the two top exchanges. We've heard rumblings that Binance might be listing it here very soon. No rumblings about Coinbase, but I still believe it's only a matter of time before Coinbase offers one of the top altcoins in the game. It's already a top 30. I believe this is a coin that could rival for a top 10 position before it's all said and done. With that said, impossible prediction, but I'm going to make it 60 cents. We're not going to go much higher than 50, but 60 cents. Could be completely off, could be close. We'll have to wait and see things play out. With that said, I will be making a price prediction about Caspa for a market top, though, where I think a big rejection would happen before a strong bear market comes into play. Look forward to that video coming out in the next couple of weeks. I'm going to be actually, just to entice you guys, be redoing a lot of price predictions, but instead of giving one specific point, I'm going to leave out scenarios for you guys of what happens in a very bearish situation. What's a very low prediction? What's a realistic prediction? And then what is if everything aligns and everything's perfect for this project, how high can they get to? We're going to do pretty much everything within the top 20 and then some outliers as well. So look forward to those price prediction videos. I know we got a lot of people who will love seeing that, but it's 4 o'clock now, everybody. We're going to wrap up today's show. Smash that like button on your way out. I know today the views weren't as high. We kind of knew they were not going to be that great. We put Bitcoin in the title. I don't know why. Everyone loves hearing about Bitcoin, but for some reason when Bitcoin is the keyword, the views are a little bit lower. That's not an indication of the channel dying or no one cares about crypto. It's just a titling mishap.
Little inside baseball there for the bros toward the end of the stream.
If you guys want to learn more about how YouTube works, we've learned a lot about that and what works with the algorithm. With that said, though, love you guys. I will be going live tonight at 7 p.m. with our VIP trading group, doing the second part of the Trading View tutorial. If you are a VIP member, you don't want to miss it. Then right after that, 8 p.m., once again, as T-Shirt mentioned earlier, X Spaces. It's going to be a blast. We'll probably talk a little more politics on there, more so than here on YouTube. Love you guys. Hit subscribe. See you tomorrow. Adios.
Trying to make paper, turn that better to cake. Money like Lego, connect the dots that bank. We are investing bros. We are investing bros. Army pipe, lethal on trade. Entries and exits, worthy of praise. Tim, the professor, the TA. Shout it out loud on the PA. T-Shrooms news, got the word. Doing better than what he deserves. Beamer, leave no evidence. Soon fly coop with his dividend. Trying to make paper, turn that better to cake. Money like Lego, connect the dots that bank. We are investing bros. We are investing bros.